Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com, and this is my review of the Hurst Elite Series Catback exhaust fitting your 2015 and up GT Mustang. This catback from Hurst is going to be for the S550 GT owners out there that are looking for a deep classic tone from a high quality catback. This is a perfect option for the guys that are not looking for anything too loud, but want something aggressive and something that sounds like a GT should sound. This catback is going to eliminate the factory resonator and replace it with a high-flow Resonator delete X pipe that leads down to the straight-through mufflers, and this setup's going to give a sound that is a classic sound, characteristic of a Mustang in a performance world, as you guys already heard from the sound clips. Like I mentioned earlier, this catback is going to eliminate the restrictive factory resonator and replace it with an X pipe. Now, an X pipe typically makes for a louder system that will produce more power later in the RPM band than an H pipe would. X pipes are generally raspier as well, and they force the exhaust to cross streams to even out the flow. So Hurst was thinking of providing maximum scavenging and the best flow with this setup, as well as getting a certain type of exhaust note. Removing this resonator is going to have a bunch of performance benefits. You're looking at both sound and power improvements, and even some weight benefits, since the simple X here is going to weigh less than the factory resonator. So that's just a nice little bonus that you get from swapping over to an aftermarket system like this one. Along with some of the other catback options out there, this system actually bumps up the size of the piping. You'd be going from a 2.5-inch system to a 3-inch system. This is going to increase the flow of gases, which is where the horsepower and torque gains will come from. And you're also looking at a full 304 stainless steel mandrel bent catback with this system. And this system right here has 4-inch mirror polished 304 stainless steel tips that have the Hurst logo mirror etched into them. The 4-inch tips out back make for a nice finishing touch in my opinion that goes along well with the muscle car sound that the catback gives. And as usual, stainless steel is always a great option for the cars that see all different types of road conditions, since it's going to offer corrosion resistance. And another cool thing about this catback is that it's made in the US by Flowmaster for Hurst, so there is a certain level of quality that you can expect with this system. As always, the main component of a catback is going to be the mufflers. They're the heart of the system, and they play a large part in both the sound and performance benefits. In this case, we're looking at a set of straight-through Hurst mufflers that have a 3-inch core. The Hurst mufflers have a high thermal sound absorption barrier, and the barrier paired with the 3-inch core is what's going to give the deep classic tone that these mufflers have. And on top of that, the combination of the mufflers with the X pipe is going to give the volume, but without sound distortion or drone at highway speeds. The first impression that I got from this catback is that it has a deep sound. At idle, you can hear that this catback is deeper than the factory exhaust, and as you start climbing the RPMs, I don't think the deepness of the tone goes away. It definitely reminds me of a muscle car tone, and it does it without being extremely loud. I didn't hear any sound distortion with this catback, which I thought I might, considering the X pipe and the louder volume level. There was a little popping on decel, but it really wasn't a lot. Nothing over the top or very distracting. Just a little something to add some dimension to the sound. I would place this catback towards the higher end of the middle of the pack when it comes to volume. It's not going to be considered a quiet catback, but it's not the loudest either. I would call it a solid 3 or 3.5 on the loudness meter, with 1 being very quiet and 5 being the loudest that's out there. Even though the system does have an X pipe, there actually isn't a lot of raspiness to it. Now that's something that a lot of you guys may be very happy about, because not everyone loves a raspy note. It really all just depends on what you're looking for at the end of the day. There are some other options on the site that have a quieter tone if this one's too much for you, or some that are even louder if you want more volume than this. Overall, I'd still relate the sound of this system to a deep muscle car note that is classic and iconic. The X pipe isn't too raspy to take away from the deepness of the tone, but there is a little bit of crackle and popping on decel, but it just adds to the meanness of the sound. Like I just said, there are a handful of different options when it comes to catbacks for the S550 GT at this point in time, and this means different types of sound as well as different price ranges. You've got your choice of high-end offerings as well as choices for those that do not want to spend that much. And the Hurst is going to be one of the high-end offerings. This is a high-quality catback from material to fabrication to the more individual sound that you heard in the sound clips, and if these are things that you're concerned with, you're shopping in the right place. The price of this catback is going to be up there with the likes of Borla, Cooks, Ford Racing, and close to Corsa, with a price tag just over $1,300. If you haven't noticed already, catbacks for the S550 are not cheap, especially if you're looking for a nice fitting and good quality system that you can really invest in. When it comes to the install, you're going to be looking at an easy 1 out of 3 wrenches on the scale when we look at difficulty. This is considered a direct bolt-on item, so you won't need to cut anything or modify anything to get it installed. All that you're really going to need is a socket set, and a lift would certainly make things easier here, but the job can be done on stands as well. We're going to be removing the exhaust from the Resonator back, so an extra set of hands can make things easier for you here. You will be moving over your hangers to the new Catback, so I'd recommend taking them off with the factory exhaust when you drop that. It'll just make the swap a little bit easier. The only other thing you'll reuse is the front clamps off of the Resonator for the front of the new Catback. The whole Catback can be dropped as one big piece, which is why an extra set of hands can really help here. And when you go to install your new setup, it'll probably be easiest to start from the front and move back. So start with the X-pipe area first, then move on to your muffler assemblies, and I would leave everything loose until you have it all lined up and then tighten it down. The Catback does come with new clamps, so you don't have to worry about picking those up, and you can figure on spending about an hour or two from start to finish to get all of this done. Overall, the Hurst Elite Series Catback is going to replace the factory Resonator with an X-pipe that will ultimately drop some weight and open up both exhaust flow and power. The Catback features straight-through mufflers that produce a good amount of volume and sound without being overbearing. This Catback is also a step up to a 3-inch Catback that comes complete and is a direct bolt-on install that requires no cutting. You can check this Catback out online some more for yourself, and for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.